Wouldn't that, come on now, wouldn't it be a relief to no longer be who you presently are? The negative parts of us I'm talking about, the confusions. Let's summarize the confusion. When people talk to me, or they talk to you, or you talk to them, they use phrases that indicate quite accurately that most of us are living in a haunted house, with the ghosts of yesterday rising up with all the guilts and shames, which are all the guilts and shames over how we behaved a few years ago, or a few weeks ago, or a few minutes ago. All the guilts and shames and difficulties that we had a few years ago rising up to haunt us, to misdirect our thought, to misdirect our feelings, to misdirect our actions. A negative force arising in us to cause us to be negative again. And this is what the haunted house consists of. Not knowing which way to turn, which we'll get to eventually in the talk, but simply living in a state that no matter what we do, no matter what direction we turn in, things seem to get worse instead of better. Oh, I didn't say we didn't get thrills. I didn't say we didn't have successes in the exterior world. You might have attained something quite exciting as far as your employment is concerned, or your career is concerned. You may be quite successful, or you may have hope that the future is going to give you something that you don't have now. Why not? Why not this morning, all of us together here as friends, which we are, friends who want to know something better, to live something better than we've had up to this point of our life, which, whether you are aware of it or not, I would tell you, and I would tell you personally, actually exists. You can have it, you can find it. All right. One unconsciousness, one part of the haunted house is our belief, follow this please, is our unconscious belief. We are quite sure that God, truth, reality, the supreme power, you take any term you like, that truth is out to take something valuable away from us. Now, you listen to me. I will guarantee you that to one degree or another, you feel, you are quite sure that if truth comes along and you make yourself receptive to it, that it is going to take something away from you, and of course it will. Of course. That's what it's all about. Now, look at your particular inner condition, your haunted house, and you find out what you both love and unlove at the same time. What experiences, what attitudes, what viewpoints do you have that are in a very odd, peculiar kind of a contradiction? For example, let's take a common one of irritation. How many of you have been irritable today so far? Last week? You thought you was going to get out of it, didn't you? This state of irritation is both, what's that they have in a Chinese restaurant? Sweet, sour pork, right? This irritation inside us is sweet, sour irritation. It is sweet, in quote marks, in the sense that it gives us a reaction. Something comes along, the man moves too close to you out on the highway, someone takes your parking place, something that goes wrong at home or down at the office. And our mechanical reaction is to get irritated over it. And we say, ha, look how intelligent I am. I have sense enough to get irritated. This is our reaction to it, because we don't also see the sour part of it. You want something to do? You like a little work project for the rest of the week? No, the rest of your life? You watch the next time you get irritated. You watch very carefully as to what it does to you. Watch the physical tension alone. Watch how the hands get a little tight, the jaw gets tight. Watch how the mind gets excited. Watch, if you can do this, and you can, watch how your facial expression changes when you get irritated over anything else. It doesn't make any difference. So that we can bring the unconscious part up to consciousness and simply see. That is, be aware of what such a simple little negativity as irritation does to our life. Do you really think that a person, you or me, can be both irritated and at peace of mind at the same time? Aren't they contradictions? Something is going to have to give. But back to the sweet part. If all I know is to get irritated, bang, 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 over this and that all day long, and then this has become my identity, this has become my habit system, and I hang on to it for dear life, otherwise I won't know what to do myself when the man takes my parking place. Don't I have a right to get irritated? You have no right to make yourself miserable. We think we have, and we seem to prefer it the way we live most of the time. So a very close observation of how we live in daily little simple events. What happens to you from the time you walk out of here till the time you get home. If you could begin to watch yourself and then go on from there to a point which I want to come back to, because you have no idea of the immense importance of it. Because when you see it, something hard will crack inside you, something that should crack so that we can begin the melting down process of our own self-centeredness, which is, again, listen, the unconscious belief. We don't even know we have it. You see, when something is unconscious, we deny that it's there. That means it's unconscious. Therefore, when we say, I'm not an irritable person, but we have it, we deny it because we don't see it. Other people can see it. Isn't it easier to see other people's anger than our own? Of course. If I can become aware that I have a lot of irritation in me, and go on from there to take a long leap to see that God, truth, reality, in wanting to take away my irritation, wants to take away one thing, which is trash. Oh, but I've lived with this trash so long, it's my best friend. What will I do? What will I do if I can't react that way? Who will I be? I know who I am when I'm crabby. I'm a grouch. See? And I'd rather be a grouch than be nobody. This is the way we operate, I'm afraid. Let's all get through our thick heads once and for all that truth wants to do one thing only. Show us the way to get rid of our pseudo, false, artificial happiness. And we live in an artificial happiness if it swings over to depression, to any other negativity. For example, we should be able to see, even as an elementary step, that getting excited over something that happens to us in the exterior world, someone flatters us. How many of you like flattery? Let's see. You like flattery? How many of you have vanity? You see how closely they're tied together. Not knowing who I am, I want you to tell me. Your friends can't tell you who you are because they don't know who they are. And so we sit across the dinner table, the man and the woman, whispering sweet things to each other, both flattering each other, both building each other's vanity, And you know very well, we've all done it, by the way, so we know very well that just a few days later, that woman and gentleman, that woman is going to look at you in a different way, and you're going to look at her in a different way. Do you know why? That just let's set the romantic mood for a minute. There's a candle in the middle of the table, right? And you're holding hands and looking at each other's eyes. Now you're paying attention all of a sudden, aren't you? Do you know what's going on while they're both whispering sweet endearments into each other's ears? Do you know what's happening? I'll tell you. Two imaginary people are talking to each other, whispering each other. The man says, I love you, and she says, well, I love you too, dear. Who on earth are they talking to? That man wants that woman to be a certain kind of a woman for his benefit. Pleasant, not too greedy, sexy, etc. I thought that I'd get a reaction. The woman looks back, and she's what she wants in a man. And listen to this if you want a tragic story. She looks at him and she hopes and prays that he's strong. And one look at his face and she knows better. The reason she knows how do we get into this? It can't fulfill us, and so we're caught in the squirrel cage going around and around and around. Now, follow again with me closely. Obviously, if my car breaks down, I must make an effort to repair it. Either repair it myself or make an effort to get it down to the mechanic who can repair it properly. If I'm hungry, then I must make the effort to get to the cafe or cook the dinner. We obviously, from a certain level, must make an effort to satisfy our social needs, physical needs, and so on. That part is clear. But whatever you do, stop there. Because any effort on the level of the intellect, which is my conditioning, which is the past, which is memory, any effort on the part of that to try to make myself feel secure will only make me more shaky than ever, because the person who makes the effort to do it is closely allied with the goal. That is, I think that I will be fulfilled when this or that happens. Haven't you had the experience? Of course you have. Dozens of times, hundreds of times, thousands of times in your life in which you say, when this is achieved, then I will be at peace. When this, or if I get rid of something, I get rid of this or that, then I will feel fulfilled. I will feel relief. I will feel happy. And maybe you actually did get rid of that incident, whatever it was, or maybe you attained your goal, whatever it might be. Didn't you notice, ladies, didn't you notice, gentlemen, that the nagging continued? We're here to discover a way which can be simply described. To attain it is quite another thing, because it takes hard work, but we're not afraid of that. We're here to attain a way of daily living, minute by minute living, using the mind properly on the everyday level to do this or that, conduct the business and so on, and to live, the rest of us, to live in eternity right now. Let me tell you something. You might find it hard to understand, but you work on it. It is quite possible for a human being who has understood all these things we're talking about, who endured unto the end, as Christ said, it's quite possible for him to go down to his office in the morning or stay at home and be right in the center of this frenzied world. You will understand this phrase, I'm sure. To be in the world but not part of it. That is, nothing can touch you because there's no self there, no false self, no invented personality, no acquired nature, no false self that can be touched by anything out in that world. I tell you, this may be a blow to some of you, but it's a healthy blow. If we want this higher state in which we are in true command of ourselves, it means that a lot of things are going to have to go, which we covered briefly earlier, that we now hold valuable. Back to flattery again. Why do we want anyone to flatter us? First of all, the thrill of it. Oh, you have such a marvelous dress. Maybe you do, but that's not the point. Or you've achieved so much in life. I'm quite proud of you and all that. This can lead to nowhere because it's the wrong move. Those of you, how many of you were at the earlier meeting, please? How many of you were at the earlier meeting? No. Remember we talked? Quite right. And there's been many books, as you know, in which self-images are encouraged. Have a strong self-image of being strong, a strong person, a competent person. And all this is only leading you deeper into the trap, deeper into delusion. As you've been listening tonight, you know that I've told you that self-images are the enemy, not the friend. So toss out those books, please, when you get home. I'm sorry. I'll come to you in a minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, the lady. Go ahead.
In order to achieve the goals that you're talking about, is a belief in God necessary?
Oh, no. You mustn't believe in God. If you believe in God, you'll never find God.
What?
If you believe in God, you'll never find God. What you will find is your belief in God. Let's see the hands of those of you who used to be Catholics. Let's see the hands of the Baptists.
I'm not now.
Oh, all right, Presbyterians, Zen Buddhists. All right. You had ideas about what God was, didn't you? And your church told you who God was. An idea about God is not God. That's simply an intellectual concept. And this is why you have religious wars, because the Catholics have their idea about God and the Protestants have theirs, and so they fight each other in the name of God. They slaughter each other in the name of love. Pretty good, huh? This means you must give up all ideas about God, but you're afraid to do that. It's a false fear, but let me explain. This is very interesting. You're afraid to not think about God because you're afraid that you're not being loyal to Him. Look, please begin to be disloyal to your neurosis. Let me repeat. Please begin to be disloyal to your neurosis, including your neurotic ideas, beliefs about God. An idea about God is not God. You look at the word God in a book. It says God. Is that word God? Is that idea God? No. But we create a God in our own likeness and image because we want the God to be me. I want my God to be me. The kind of a God, for example, who's going to say, no matter how devilish you live all your life, when you die, you'll go to heaven. You can live like a devil, but you'll go to heaven. And even that curious contradiction doesn't strike anyone. We build a God in our own comfortable image. And if anyone attacks that idea of God, we get disturbed. God is above all thoughts about God. You might want to write that down. God is above all thoughts about God. So don't be afraid to not think about God. And when you do that, you will know who God is, but you won't think about it. You will know without intellectualization at all. Now, please.
Vernon, would you please define intelligence and esoteric?
Define intelligence?
Esoteric.
Yes. It's the absence of me. Intelligence is the absence of me. Now, according to that definition, how many of us are intelligent? How many of you are sitting here in a negative state right now? Raise your hand. Don't lie. Here's your chance not to lie. All right, if you want to stay and lie, then it's up to you. Goodbye. Yes, you're going to. Oh. Okay. The lady, please.
Could you explain why many times I've heard you criticize the so-called born-again Christians as being hypocrites? Don't you think that any of these people may have found some true spirituality?
Because, the reason I bring it up is because they're hypocrites. Yeah, you see, you will not understand my answer, because I can tell by your question that you still believe that there are decent people in this world, including so-called born-again Christians. I just hope and pray the day comes when you get taken by somebody, especially a born-again Christian. Oh, no, well, let's be democratic. A born-again Zen Buddhist, a born-again Sufi, a born-again Baptist, listen, this is serious, a born-again atheist, because an atheist is a believer too. I just hope and pray the day comes when you get so shocked by seeing that that nice person is not nice at all, so that you can begin to wake up. Only a great, great shock can wake you up. You still think there's nice people. You really do. I feel sorry for it, for what you're going to have to go through until you find out. And just 1 minute. And the reason you think other people are nice is because you have unconscious images of yourself being nice. Go ahead, please.
Well, you said earlier that when you fall on your face and you collapse, that's when God helps you.
Yes.
Well, is this not a person who would be born again?
Yes. I'm saying the real thing, as opposed to the Word, where you write a book and sell 1 million copies of it, and that is your real motive, but unseen by yourself.
But you are transformed when you do fall, when you die to yourself, or whatever it is you die to. And then God is really calling the signals. That's when He helps us, and we really don't have a will any longer.
Okay.
We have God.
We'll take a few more questions and then stop. This lady, please.
Yes.
Short and clear, please.
Okay, short question. If one has made some terrible mistakes in their life, do they have another chance?
Say that again.
If one has made some very horrible mistakes in the past,
Someone makes mistakes in the past. Yes.
do they have a chance?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, because you'll learn what it means to cancel time. You'll learn what it means to cancel time, which means to rise above the intellect. Time exists only subjectively on the level of the intellect. When you understand that, you will rise above the intellect, therefore rise above time, which means that your real nature, is living right now, not in the past with all those stupid things we all did in the past, not living in the future thinking you're going to go to heaven or you'll be rich tomorrow or other stupidities like that. You're living freely right now because there's no person there trying to use time to confirm itself. See, we're all trying to confirm ourselves as long as we're living on an egotistical level. And that is our hell. Trying to prove that a lie is the truth is our hell, because you can't do it. You can't prove that mirage is a real river. You try it. You can try it all your life and you'll still stay thirsty. And you can lie about it. You can say, look, I actually swim in that river. You're swimming in imagination in that river. And the fact that you're miserable proves it. Please.
Isn't it fear of death or the fear of annihilation that makes it so difficult to give up?
Yes. Now that's a very good question. Yes, it is. Yeah. It's very simple. No, I understand. Follow. The fear of death is really the fear of the death of your false self. It's the false self that fears its own end. Follow so far? Where does the false self, the invented self, arise from? Egotistical thoughts. I build myself up as a certain kind of a person. All of us have ideas of the certain kind of person we are. I'm sincere, I'm honest, I'm loving, I'm successful, or as I said before, I'm a flop. Man, am I a flop, see? I'm bragging that I'm a flop. I'm bragging. I have an idea of who I am built up from hundreds of experiences and ideas. All right. This is myself I imagine. Now, I know that when I die physically, I sense that not only will the physical body end, and certainly will end, won't it? When the physical body ends, also my thoughts as they are now operating will also end. But if my thoughts end upon physical death, then I, quote Marx, will die. Now I'm afraid. Follow so far? Now I'm afraid of death. But look, listen to this. Listen. If I can see that the false self is in death, it's not eternal. It must die. If I let it die, if I don't attach to that compliment, if I don't attach to that failure and feel sorry for myself, if I don't attach to any thoughts at all, then I die while I'm alive. That is, seeing the falseness of living in the invented self, I no longer recreate the images. I let them die out. I die while I'm alive, which means that you can live in eternity while you're still alive. Then there's the mere going away of the physical body, but you don't identify with that anymore. You don't say, oh, I'm so sad. I look at the picture in the photo album when I was 30 years old, and I was handsome and charming and full head of hair. Everything was marvelous. And now look at me, 70, about ready to go. You see, you've identified with the physical body, have you not? Naturally, you're going to be scared and
Side 2. This Vernon Howard tape will continue momentarily.
If you really want to change yourself, there's one way and only one way to do it. And it can be expressed 1,000 ways, you understand. And that way is to subject yourself to truth and to permit it to do anything it wants with your mind, with your feelings, with your life. Now, you are not even beginning to have enough self-discipline in order to be able to do that. Therefore, you have, and this is a dreadful thing, but follow me. Therefore, you have to put yourself under the right authority of someone who is telling you the truth. And enter 10,000 charlatans who tell you that they are telling you the truth, and you don't know the difference yet, so you listen to charlatans and you follow them, and very conveniently, you both keep yourself asleep. Both the teacher and the follower have made an unconscious agreement. The teacher says, I am a teacher of light, of love. I can tell you how to find universal love. I can tell you how to free yourself, how to not be afraid, how to enter eternity and all that. The teacher says, I can do this for you. And the student says, that's exactly, sir, what I want. So I'll listen to you and I'll come to your meetings and I'll read your books and I'll give you my money and things like that. I'll tell you how you can tell a charlatan. He will make you feel comfortable. And I'll tell you how you can tell another charlatan. One who disturbs you mechanically because he is giving you mechanical disturbance in order to have a self-image of himself as being a teacher who can disturb people in order to wake them up as he himself has already awakened. He is also a charlatan. Now I'll tell you how to tell whether a man is telling you the truth or not about the spiritual things, whether he's really telling you the truth or not. There's one way, and that way is your own witness inside of yourself. When you have made a certain amount of progress, when you have made up your mind that you're going to go through the hell in order to shatter it, which you can do. The only way to shatter the inner hell is to enter it and stay in it, which a teacher will insist that you do. A phony will help you to escape it by telling you that God loves you and you're already born again by coming to one meeting and things, other lies like that. So if you put yourself in the hands of anyone at all, if you will follow the principle of self-honesty, the time will come when you will know whether he's telling you the truth or not. Because you yourself have begun to gain a grain of it. And it's the truth, not your conditioning, not your memory, not your vanity. It is God's truth itself that is telling you whether this other person is telling you the truth or not. This is the only test. And if you use any other, you're just going to fall under the spell of people who are lying to you for their own vanity purposes, and you'll both fall into the ditch. The blind will lead the blind, and they'll both fall into the ditch. If you will say, I'm going to be honest with myself above all, I'm going to put truth above that teacher, I'm going to put truth against my head of my wife, head of my husband, against my income. I'm going to put truth first as best I understand it. And I don't understand it very well, but I have to start somewhere. As best I can, I'm going to put truth first. And I'm going to watch where I get mad when I'm told that I'm weak. I'm going to watch how I get scared when told that I've been a liar all my life. And I'm going to simply watch the fear that goes through me. because I am beginning to understand that a close acquaintanceship with the fear, with the anxiety, with the tension, with the hatred, a close acquaintance with it is the only thing that can eventually destroy it. Certainly saying it's not there and blabbing about love, blabbing about how much God loves me and what he's going to do for me after I die and all that. Certainly those sorts of things are going to put you deeper into self-division, and God help you until the point comes when you're no longer able to see raging hatred in your face as it goes on because you have called it love. And I know people like that, and maybe you do too, who can have the fire of hell on their face and say they love you. If you go this far, I don't know what on earth is going to save you. This is why it's very important for every one of you in this room to don't miss what you've heard tonight. Some of you will. You'll go out and this will be the end of it and the end of you. I know that. I know that nothing can be done with you. But I'm telling all of you, in case you have a chance, don't you miss a word of what you've heard here tonight. And then you make up your mind, as fearful as you are of the truth that is dimly, dimly, dimly calling to you, and you are afraid of it, because it's going to put an end to your life as you now know it, and you're afraid of the death of your known life. As fearful as you are, you're going to keep walking forward. I'll tell you, a million devils, 1,000 hostile forces of darkness can't stop a person who says, I'm going to walk straight ahead slowly. I can only go slow, I can't run. I'm going to walk ahead slowly, straight into those ghosts, straight into those devils, straight into that hell, straight into that darkness, straight into that storm, just to see what happens to me. And what happens to you, I will tell you in advance. What happens to you is that you will disappear. And the disappearance of you, as you now know yourself, as you now label yourself, is eternal life. You don't know that yet, but I'm telling you that if you do your part, on the other side, you will know that what you're being told tonight is the truth. And you will have broken through because you had the courage to say, I don't care how scared I get, I'm going to walk. I don't care how hateful I get, I'm going to continue to walk. That is, study, try to understand, come back again. If you fall down, get up 1,000 times. If you do this, your life here on earth will not have been spent in vain. If you do not do this, then you will have wasted your life here on earth. You're here on earth, I am here on earth to evolve, to grow, to find something that is above the mechanical forces that rule this world. That's why you have wars, that's why you have crime, that's why you have hypocritical governments. That's why everything you seem to do for yourself turns against you, because there's still a you that's trying to get something from life. When you disappear, you don't try to get something from life because you are the whole of life yourself. The whole of life. And there is no division at all. And no suffering. Are you willing to give up your pain? You see, if you're willing to give up your conflict, it is necessary to do so. Otherwise, having a false love for your conflict, it will continue. So, if I told you tonight that if you took a pink pill I gave you that put an end to all your suffering, none of you would take it. You would not take the pink pill that would take all your suffering away, because you wouldn't know who you would be on the other side of this hell of suffering, would you? And this is what you fear, and I know that. People say they want peace of mind. That's the last thing they want. Peace of mind is the absence of false personality. Authentic peace of mind is the absence of all our conditioned, acquired ideas about who we are and what we should acquire. It makes no difference if you cry and scream and holler. Go ahead. I give you permission to cry and scream and holler and be afraid. But stay and take it. Stay and take it to give truth a chance and give yourself a chance. You have no other chance on earth. I know that. You will die never knowing what you missed, never knowing what you could have had for eternity. You wanted your self-centeredness, you wanted your egotism, and you wanted to blow up and get mad and hateful at even the smallest lesson that life tried to teach you, that God tried to teach you. You wanted to fight and be hostile, and you wanted to argue while calling yourself a loving Christian. That's what you have chosen. That's what you have chosen. Goodbye. For those of you who don't want that way, then welcome to the small group of those who are going to keep working on themselves until they work themselves out by putting an end to themselves. The death of you is the life of you. He that layeth down his life for my sake shall find eternal life. All right. On the questions and comments, please, you may ask.
Mr. Howard, you mentioned self-discipline, but you didn't go into it too much. And I find that sometimes when I try to use discipline to overcome a problem or to try to overcome some type of habit, a lot of times I fail. And I wonder if you could explain discipline in the truth.
Yes. Authentic discipline must start on the intellectual level. That is, you must begin to collect knowledge. And even that has a higher source, but it comes down to where you're interested in understanding things. So you want to read this book, or you want to come to that class, or you want to work on yourself. The time will finally come after you've made your preliminary efforts at discipline, where you'll see that discipline centers around one thing as a major force. And that is to all day long, even right here in this class you could be doing it, to interrupt yourself. If you write things down, write down just the phrase self-interruption, self-interruption. This means as all your work efforts come together, all the minor disciplines that you have, a major discipline will come of itself. It'll come effortless because of the result of your preliminary efforts. While you're driving your car or talking with someone, you'll immediately leave the mental level, the intellectual level. You're sitting at a cafe with someone. You're having dinner, nice, pleasant company. Okay. And you're talking, ordinary talk about the weather, about what you're going to do tomorrow, something like that. And how's the pork chops? You want the salt? And while that is going on, because you want truth more than you want to talk about pork chops or the weather, because you want to find the way out while you're still alive here on earth, what will come to you is the interruption that I'm talking about, so that you suddenly remember yourself, aware of yourself at the table. And you'll leave the intellectual level, which is right on its own level. It's not wrong to talk about pork chops and the weather. They have their place as human beings with a physical body. But all of a sudden you will leave that intellectual state and simply sit there being aware, and there's your wife across the booth at the cafe there, and she's talking, and you're listening to her all right, but at the same time there's a certain interruption that has left pork chops behind, and you're simply being aware of yourself. You're aware, for example, you were aware that your hand was a little tense, or more tense than it should have been. There's no reason for your hand being tense, but she brought up a little subject about fire insurance that made you a little tense. But you suddenly became aware of that, and so you suddenly relax your hands, you lift your jaw down. And so you're quite aware of yourself being there. This will happen automatically as a result of your preliminary discipline. Leave it at for now on that, please. And then you'll alternate between the ordinary talk about ordinary things and simply being aware of yourself, which you can, let's do it right now. Just drop your jaw a little bit, relax your hands. Be aware of your physical position. What's the expression on your face? What did you just do with your left hand? Did you go like that? Did you scratch yourself? Just be aware of it without doing anything more than that. Just see that it's there. Then you can go on from the physical self to see what you're thinking about, what's going through your emotions, for example. And as long as you don't interfere, then you have interrupted the mental state properly. If you interfere, this is the intellect leaping in and saying, ooh, I wonder if he noticed how tense I was, because I'm supposed to be spiritual and not tense. Things like that. Okay?
Apparently then mechanical discipline would only perpetuate self-division.
Yes, it would. But let me bring a word in to make that a little clearer. Look, so simple. If you are interested in something, if there's a feeling in you that you want to study anything, astronomy, you're going to be drawn to books of astronomy. You're going to talk to people about astronomy. All right. There's a part of us that's beginning to sense the horror of our lives, beginning to think about it, ponder it. That's on the intellectual level yet. You feel to see what a mess your life is and what a mess everybody else's life is. You know they can't help you. They can't help themselves. You know that. Your parents are confused. Your friends are confused. But your interest is there, and so your interest says, oh, let's see. There's a book that I read 6 months ago at the library. You're thinking about this now because your interest is live. I think I'll go back and get that book because I got it and I didn't want it, but I wanted it. I didn't want to read it, but I wanted to read it. What's going on? See? So you go back to the library and you get that book out and the same thing happens again. You don't want to hear that, but you want to hear it. It's because you're still in conflict, still in division. And if you keep reading that particular book, your interest mounts because you're real honest and you know that that book is not lying to you. It's telling you the truth. Now your discernment is growing. This kind of interest can also only come after you see what your life is really like, that it's not the castle at all, the upper part of the castle, it's the dungeon. Now the lady, please.
I wish I knew.
That's because we think we are these labels. And to lose all your labels is to lose your false life, not your true life. Please try to understand this. And everything dark inside of you does not. You try leaving a minute unplanned sometime and watch how it scares you. That is progress. Please.
What should be the right attitude toward physical pleasure, like sex and food and things like that?
Could you be more specific? Which you want to talk about, sex or food?
Suppose you find yourself sort of relishing some sort of sensual pleasure. Is that a healthy thing?
Ah, we have a guilty man here tonight. Right? Right?
Well, if you don't mean.
Yes. I would rather talk about guilt in general because it connects with practically everything we do. The more egotistical we are, the more we feel guilty. Guilt is a very strong support of egotism. I am a guilty sinner in the eyes of God. At least I'm a sinner. You may be a saint, but I'm a sinner, and I may even brag about it. I'm evil. Oh, I'm so evil. I'm bragging. That's right. Some people love to brag about how evil, how bad they are. Chronic criminals, for example. You may be good, but I'm evil, man. All this is a support of the false sense of self. As you begin to understand these things, you will see how guilt contributes to artificial personality, how it keeps it in place, and it's very, very cunning. Now, I'm not talking about the shock and the horror of seeing our lives as it actually is, simply observing our lives. But I'm talking about a false movement when you look at yourself and then identify with how evil you are. someday when you come back to these classes some other time, we could go into the fact that you must not identify with anything you see inside of yourself, because you're not even evil. You're not guilty. Who's guilty? You tell me who's guilty. You say, well, I did a terrible thing to a man 10 years ago. I did a terrible thing to a woman 10 years ago. Who are you talking about? Your false self did it back there 10 years ago, and you perpetuate it by bragging about it, by feeling guilty about it, by agitating yourself with it. There's a part in all of us that just loves to agitate by thinking about how cruel we were, how we robbed that man 10 years ago, whatever. All right. You will see someday, to come to an end of the question, that guilt contributes to time, to the time self. I was evil 10 years ago, and oh, I shouldn't have done that. I guess I'll become a Christian, and maybe God will forgive me. All this is going to keep you in illusion and keep you with the potentiality for doing again what you did to that man 10 years ago, because you haven't changed your nature. You will change your nature only when you live in the pure now, which means the absence of intellectual thought. Okay.
I've made mistakes in my life.
Yes.
Some painful, some less painful.
Yes.
And I want to correct some of them.
Yes.
And some of them, I don't know how to go. I want to correct them in a certain way where it's not guilt, but I have to do that in order to confront.
I understand. Yes. All right. I'll answer the question, then we'll stop for the night. This is a very, very advanced truth. And this is the only answer. What I'm going to tell you now is the only answer that will answer this completely for you. We've all been in a state of sleep in our life. We've all done foolish things. We've done bad things. We've done cruel things. We've done the whole mess, right? Everybody raise your hand. I'll raise mine. All right. Now, to continue to be punished now by the memory of these foolish things we did in the past, the mistakes we made, hurt other people, hurt ourselves, continue to be punished by these indicates that you're not free of time. Also not free of yourself, of your false personality. False personality which lives in time, which lives in the intellect, which lives in memory, which lives in imagination, which lives in vanity, lives in time. When I think of that bad thing I did 10 years ago, I think about it and feel ashamed and feel guilty. I have reactivated the false sense of self. I have kept mechanical thought going. Therefore, I cannot be free in the here and now. When I understand what it means to die to time, to die to myself, to die to shame over what I've done in the past, to die completely to all my images about myself, that cancels time because I've canceled the intellect where time exists. When I do that, then I live on a higher level where I am not the Catholic man anymore, not the Baptist anymore, not the winner of the 100-yard dash in the Catholics anymore, not that marvelous mother who raised 3 marvelous children and all that. I am no one at all, but in that not knowing who I am free and know who I am without thought. Therefore, I'm not tied to anything in the past, no matter how bad of mistakes I might have made. Because if I don't reactivate, if I don't think through memory of who I used to be, if I don't connect it with my sense of self, I can think about the incident without it punishing me, because memory then doesn't go into the I self. This is very difficult for me to explain and difficult for you to follow, but this is the answer to the whole business of restitution, for example. Then you'll know what to do with things of the past. And what you'll do most of all is be completely free of it, because you are no longer the human being who did that cruel thing. All right, let me conclude with this. Okay. Look, we better have meetings every night for the next.
We're willing.
As long as you know who you are, you don't. Now you take that much and work with it. You have to do some work. As long as you think about who you are, you don't really know who you are, because you are not thought myths about yourself. You're not imagination. You're not flatteries. This means you're going to have to die, which means you're going to have to transcend the intellect. Then you'll know. Did you remember me saying you'll know who you really are when you know without thinking about it? You remember me saying that? Good night. As follows. There's a completely new way in which any one of you in this room and any of you listening to this tape, there's a totally new way for you to go through the rest of your life. It might be 5 years, it might be 50 years, it might be 5 minutes. But there's a way in which you can no longer be, listen to this please, and which you need no longer suffer from being an egotist, which you now are. There is a way in which you need no longer pay the price for being a self-centered person in a state of spiritual sleep, in which you need no longer be scared, in which you need no longer have heartache. You're all scared, by the way. You're not scared, you're terrified. You cover it up. Cover it up in 1,000 ways, to yourself and to other people, into believing in things. Believing in things covers up your terror, but it doesn't cover it up. You still shake. There is a way in which you can still go down to the office, still have your wife and husband there and raise your family, still be interested in baseball if you're interested in baseball, still go out and build things, furniture on your weekend in your workshop out in the back room. Live a normal life on the everyday social level and be one human being in 100,000. That is, which you must do without vanity, of course, and if you really do it, there will be no vanity involved in it at all, because there'll be a higher understanding of what happened to you, in which you go through your life living in the present moment fully, living in time when necessary so you can get to work on time, living free from your problems, because you have dissolved through higher insight, dissolved the problem-causing machine which has been you. The problem-causing machine is inside me or is inside you. Through understanding higher truths, these higher truths, which is light, come in and put an end to the false me. Then me, which centers around my name, centers around my career, so-called, centers around my accomplishments, centers around my sorrows. All pains, all false pleasures build what I call me. In my case, it's Vernon. In your case, it's Mary or Bill or whatever. This is the false life that centers around the invented me, the artificial me, the me which thought has created, along with experiences, along with emotions. In order to change the kind of a human being you are, you must go through certain steps, and I've taken you through certain preliminary ones, giving you the bare outlines of it. You must go through certain stages. And the first stage is to see what a miserable life you really have, how angry you get. How many of you get angry? Raise your hand. See? How angry you get all the time. And then instead of shoving the anger aside and saying, well, tomorrow I won't get angry because I'm going to meditate or whatever dumb thing you do, you begin to see that anger, as one of the thousands of chains that we have, must be dealt with in a different way than suppressing it, pretending it's not there, or justifying it. Well, I have a right to get mad at you. Look what you did to me. All that sort of thing. You begin to see that all the negative states, which are our chains, have to be dealt with in a different way. And then, shock upon shock, you get to the point where you see that while you have to deal with them in a new way, there's no one there who can deal with them in a new way. This is why you need guidance at every step, because there's a pit at every step. Say, for example, you get to the point where you say, yes, you've described my life rightly. I pretend a lot, and I pretend I'm happy, then I go home and cry and get mad and on. And I would indeed like to take the next step of understanding how to get rid of them, these negativities, all the negativities of life. Fear, for example, fear of the future. Then I could say to you, and this is marvelous news, I said I was going to give you good news, and here it is. You will see, as soon as you understand what it means to come to an end to yourself, which is the same thing as giving up your love of suffering, when you see what it means to come to an end of yourself, it's the same thing as the slowing down of the intellect upon which you are falsely built, and the mind begins to slow down so that you begin to understand how you yourself have created you, and therefore have created all your difficulties in life. When you understand this, then something that is not you makes it possible for your mind and your life to begin to slow down, to the point, if you ever go this far, where your old nature ceases to recreate itself with thought. This, as Leland pointed out very briefly or hinted at, this is what Christ talked about in the New Testament, where he said, ye must first die and then be born again. The old nature, which we treasure so dreadfully, this pain that we treasure so dreadfully, we must be willing to give it up. But to give it up means giving me up, because I am the pain itself. I can't get rid of my suffering without getting rid of me, because the both are the same thing. I and my pain are one. I want to get rid of my pain, but I want to hang on to me, which is impossible, because I and my agony are the same thing. But I don't want to give me up, because who will I be? The good news is, if you dare to give yourself up, what you've called yourself, it's not you at all. It's just invented surface personality. If you dare to give yourself up, which is the same thing of giving up your agony, if you dare to do that, then on the other side of that, on the other side of your intellect, is a new life. Don't try to imagine it. Whatever you do as you're listening to me now, don't you dare try to imagine it, or you'll go into imagination based on your past and based on what you want it to be. And you'll just create some phony heaven which won't comfort you at all, which won't keep you at peace at all, but should rather keep you in conflict. Now, you are beginning to be rightly serious towards your life. And when you do that, I'm going to use a word deliberately now, and it's a good word. When you do that, God begins to recognize what you are doing, which is you're willing to yield your egotism, willing to yield your anger, which you value so much, willing to yield your pretense that you already know the answers. Then God, truth, reality, cosmic consciousness, call it what you want, begins to do for you what you have never been able to do for yourself. And you'll never be able to do it for yourself. Caught in the marsh of self-centeredness, we can't get ourselves out. And you had better drop any ideas that you have that you can rescue yourself. Because the self that says I can rescue myself is equally in the marsh, then what can we do? What we can do is see that you can't rescue yourself when you're in there struggling and are willing to go down into the marsh and disappear. At that moment there is rescue, but it's not rescue of your old nature. That has to go. Then you will know without imagination, without thought, what it means to be on really solid ground, the solid ground of a truly spiritual life, of reality, in which you won't quake at all because the old nature has been left behind. That is what quakes. That is what gets hostile. On the solid ground of reality, of truth, you've set yourself free by first being willing to let yourself go. At that point, truth will do everything for you. Truth will live your life for you. Then you watch how easily you take what happens to you out in that world. You're not living for this world anymore. You're living for eternity. As a matter of fact, you're already living in eternity, even while living in the flesh in this life. Everything I've told you tonight can be understood by you, can be lived by you, if you want it more than you want anything else.